All right, everybody, let's try again. So happy Wednesday. I am on here because I wanted to talk about why we don't think we're worthy. And I want to go into a little history that I've been learning, and this idea and this piece that I have just started working into worthiness into my coaching, which is history, all right, race, and gender. So if we want to address if we feel worthy or not and the baggage and the limiting beliefs that we have around our worthiness, we have to go to when we were little and to the history of our lives and our stories and our parents and what we were taught, what we were told, and what we were shown. But then we also have to look at the bigger picture, which is race, gender, generation, all right, because all of this plays a piece in it. And so if you want to address what you believe you're worthy of when it comes to money, when it comes to love, when it comes to acknowledgement and praise and recognition, when it comes to health in your body, when it comes to approval, when it comes to manifesting, creating joy, what you believe that you're worthy of when it comes to joy and happiness and peace and freedom, all of these are affected by our history and everything that has led up until this point, and also who we are and where we came from in our ancestors. And this is the piece that not many people talk about, and I'm so excited and passionate to talk to you guys about, because this has been the missing piece. This has been the missing piece of mindset. This has been the missing piece of coaching. And this is what's so important to understand. And I don't work just with women, even though my programs are all just women. Actually, half of my one-on-one clients are men, and half are women. And we have to look at our upbringing, and we have to look at before we were even born. And so for you women out there, and this is specifically talking about money, but then also talking about power and confidence and who we see ourselves in our household as leaders and everything else. So, and then we have to talk about race, which I will talk about in a second. Women, as women, we were not even allowed to have bank accounts, money to our name until the 1960s, and that was only if we had a husband. So if we had a husband, we were allowed to have bank accounts and money to our name only if our husband's name was attached to it, until the 1960s. As single women, or women owning and having money to their name by themselves in banks and a line of credit, that didn't happen until 1974. What? That didn't happen until 1974. Could women have money of their own and a credit line of their own? Not until the 1960s were Black women able to vote. Like, that was not that long ago. That was not that long ago at all. And there are so many people walking this earth right now who that affected them. That affected, so I'm 31. So if you're in your 30s, right, or younger, this affected your parents. This affected your grandparents. This affected your aunts and uncles. And so that has been that lesson, those programming, that mindset of, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of having money. I'm not worthy of being the breadwinner. I'm not worthy of having money to my name and having power behind my name and money behind my name or letters behind my name or whatever else, because we were not taught how to have that, and no one teaches us how to have that now, because we are the first generation to not have to even think twice that that is not a possibility for us. And so that is a very, very, very significant piece where my mom, who was born in 1958, this was something that was a part of her life that I didn't even know about. And I want to ask you, did you know about this? Have you asked your mom or your aunts or your grandparents what their experience was around money, what their experience was around having by themselves? So of course we're going to have issues. Of course we're going to have resistance to having, to receiving, and to having significance in terms of money, of power, of job, and recognition, because we weren't taught how. So of course we're going to have resistance. Of course we're going to have programming that we need to overcome. Of course that is in our subconscious. And this was white women. I don't actually know when women of color were able to have money to their name without a person, without a man or someone else backing it. If you go to race, and as women of color and Black women were not allowed to have a vote until 1965. If you look at redlining, if you look at loans, if you look at what's happening and what has been happening for a very long time to Black farmers, if you look at the education system, property taxes, privilege, the inequality of where money is allocated to, people of color in the Black community, we cannot talk about worthiness and we cannot address changing what you believe you're worthy of until we address that race and gender play a part, a huge part in what we grow up learning and believing about ourselves today. And so why do we have a hard time believing we're worthy? Because we have spent our whole life hearing, seeing in a systemic way that we're not. And yes, in many cases and in some cases, this is changing. But change doesn't happen like that. Change doesn't happen when we're told that in 1974 that we are allowed to then have money to our name. Change doesn't happen when the Civil Rights Act gets passed. Change doesn't happen once a bill is passed. Change happens from the people. Change happens from within. And it has to happen from within. It has to start here. It cannot start anywhere else, because we have to first address what we've been told, what we've been taught, what we've been shown, what has been modeled for us. We first have to become aware of what is deep, deep, deep into our subconscious and bring it forward so that we can heal it, that we can address it, and that we can heal it and change it for the generations moving forward. So what does worthiness have to do with it? Everything. As always, everything. Your worth, what you believe you're worthy of, what you've been told you're worthy of, what you've been modeled and shown that you're worthy of, is creating your life, is creating your relationships, is creating the amount of money in your bank account, is creating your health, is creating your peace and freedom or lack of in your life. Your worth and what you believe you're worthy of either is working for you in creating your peace, freedom, abundance, joy, love, adoration, health, everything else, or it's creating your anxiety, it's creating your depression, it's creating your lack of belief, it's creating your doubt and insecurity. The fastest and the only way to create the love, freedom, joy, peace, health, acceptance, self-forgiveness, self-love that you are craving is to address first the beliefs that are holding you back from believing you're worthy of it. That's the only way. And you're in luck because something is coming your way. Too early to tell, too early to speak on. So what I want you to do today is I'm not just going to pour all this information on you and then just leave you high and dry, all right, is I want you to begin looking. What is your earliest memory of money? What's your earliest memory of you, like if you're a woman, if you're a man, right? If you don't identify with either, right? Or on the spectrum, non-binary, like what was your first experience and memory of a woman's place, of a man's place, of those gender roles? What were the stories you grew up with? What was the dynamic in the household? Talk to your grandparents if they're still with you. Talk to your aunts and uncles. Talk to the people who are your guardians and the people you grew up around. And begin gathering information of what it was like, and then bring it so that we can first learn and address how to heal that. This is mind-blowing, people. This is such deep stuff. This is not overnight fix. This is a lifelong journey. But this right here is how change happens, not just for ourselves, but also for our community, for our country, and for the world. You hold that much power. Take that with you. Have an amazing rest of your day.